wield so much power. Everybody quiet down real fast. Okay, special meeting of July 30th has come to order. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista.
Present.
Councilmember Aguilar.
Present.
Councilmember King.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia.
Present.
Mayor Samra.
Present.
For the record, council members, Mayor Pro Tem, and Mayor are in attendance.
Well, I would like to ask our 40-year veteran of the fire department to lead us in Pledge of Allegiance, please. How many? 37? Well, that means you got to come back in 3 years. Please remain standing. Changes to the agenda, council? Any changes, council, staff? If not, then we'll move on. Yeah. To report out of the closed session, there are no reportable actions. Just so you know, after the meeting, we will be going back into closed session. We haven't quite finished it. We don't want the public to be waiting either for a long time, so. Okay, citizen comment. Normally, for special meetings, citizens' comments are not normally put on the agenda, but I'm not sure why folks are here, so I will open up citizens' comment this time. So anybody that wish to comment on the item not on the agenda, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and please limit to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Jeremy Ron. I'm the Merced County Division Chief. On behalf of our Fire Chief, Mike Van Lobensel's, I just wanted to take a moment just to make sure we had a good introduction tonight, as well as to formally thank your formal contact, which was Baraka Carter, which was our battalion chief here. Baraka has been promoted to a position, and in the intern, anything that the city may need, please contact me directly. And as far as operational, I want to introduce Brian Neely, who is our Merced Battalion Chief, who will be overseeing the operations for the Livingston area. But I just wanted to briefly just make a quick introduction so you know who I am running around, as well as Chief Neely. So I just want to take this time to introduce. So thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, you want to say anything? Good. Good. Thank you.
Anybody else from Chief is going up?
Yeah, Mayor, Council, I think that was code for they're bringing in the ringers for the softball game, police and fire. So,
Hey, Chief, what does that matter? I mean, yeah.
well, I'm trying to figure out, I know
You're
one's
gonna-
going to play for
you're gonna
fire,
call-
but
You're going to call it out on account of weather anyway.
I'll
They can
never
bring
live
all the
that
ringers
down.
they want, you know?
I'll never live that down. Hey, just two things real quick. August 6th, next week, is our National Night Out. It's the opportunity for us to come together with our community across the nation. All police departments are joining the community to talk about crime prevention and getting to know their neighbors. And we're going to host a barbecue in front of the police department on C Street from 6 to 8 p.m. We invite all council and any member from the public to come. And there's going to be several booths, some games, face painting. We're going to have the mounted police out there. We're going to have the bike patrol. And it'll be a good time. So I encourage anybody that's available to come to the police department for National Night Out. And secondly, one of the things that we're working together with the city manager and Captain Soria has put together a succession plan for our police department leadership. And so we'll put that out this week. Basically, we're looking at modifying some of the structure and adding a sergeant and basically restructuring, having one less corporal. But Captain Soria plans to leave in September of 2000. 21. And so we're going to transition and replace the captain, fill that position sometime before we leave so we can have that little transition period. And then myself sometime around the same time, shortly thereafter. Same thing. There's a succession plan to kind of put into motion all the procedures and all the protocol to replace both Captain Sawyer and myself. And so we're looking forward to that. While we both enjoy working for the city, we have a great time. We've done a lot of good work here. It is going to be some time to transition out.
So you're saying that you'll be announcing the sergeant's position soon here? Or?
Yeah, this week. We're going to put out an announcement, and we're actually going to also put out the succession plan, so it'll be on notice. But if once we retire, we will come back to play against fire. So don't start getting all happy about that, because
Yeah. Don't worry. We'll make sure that you have some coupons for insurance or something, all right?
Exactly. And again, it's all for fun. It's for a good cause, and we enjoy it. Whether whoever wins, we're out there to have a good time. So
Yeah, maybe we'll give you a month's worth of coupons at your retirement for insurance, okay? So don't worry. We'll figure something out.
right. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions from anybody if they have any.
Council, any questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Diego Castillo, P.O. Box 855, Livingston, California. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a local real estate developer or real estate investment company that focuses on development, redevelopment, and trustee sales, kind of the stuff you see on Fixer Upper. And what I want to bring up to the council today, in the 10 years that I've been working with the city, I've never had any issues. And I'll make it very brief. We're an escrow on a property here in town where immediately upon beginning negotiations, I reached out to everybody within the city that I needed to reach out to. Somewhere between there, the communication got lost. There was a third-party attorney that was involved, and this property went to receivership. And like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years, been doing this full-time for 10 years, and I work with every jurisdiction, every city between Ripon to Merced. And when they see us come across the city, the county, they're excited of us coming. They're not, and I'm not saying that I haven't had that experience here, but like I said, this property that we're in escrow on somehow went through to receivership when it shouldn't have been done. And in my opinion, it wasn't handled accordingly. So I want to see. And I've been dealing with Jose Ramirez, and he's been great. But unfortunately, it's past his hands. So now I'm asking you guys what would be the correct way to bring you all the details to make this right, because I don't believe it's appropriate for this to happen to anybody else in the city.
Thank you very much. As you know, we know what happened, and we'll be coming up with a plan to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Okay.
And we truly, on behalf of the city, we do apologize for causing major inconvenience for you. And
Yeah.
we'll do
Well,
our
and
best.
like I said, it's not about me. Like for me, this
No,
was.
but
yeah.
I understand, and I appreciate you looking out for the community as a whole. But also, it doesn't negate the fact that it happened to you. So we also do want to extend the apologies and the courtesy to you that it won't happen to anybody else. We just want to make sure that we also let you know that it was unintentional, as you know, but we'll do everything we can.
Yeah, like I said, this was structured so it's a win for the seller, it's a win for the city, it's a win for the community, it was a win for everybody. And the way, by it going to a receivership, the only person, in my opinion, that's winning is the attorney, because he's getting an open checkbook to, and not this attorney, to make it clear, not Jose Sanchez, he's great. It's a third-party attorney that got involved with this property. So them and the receiver, or the receiver in reality, has an open checkbook to rehab the property and bill the city and the seller, and I don't think that's accurate when you had a private party willing to step up to do it. So.
Yeah, and I know you're looking for attention, so you will get some here, okay?
No.
At a later date, we are going to put some guards in place, so make sure that it doesn't happen.
Okay.
So we will be bringing that forward at another date to put safeguards against it in the future.
Yeah, and like I said, I look forward to work with you guys to make this right as well. Like I said, I don't believe it was handled appropriate.
Do you wish to comment? Or?
Just real quick, City Attorney, is there something that you want to add in regards to what the city, how did the whole situation happen, just for transparency purposes?
Absolutely, and I'm still getting the details. I know that the city manager has a call into another law firm that actually handled this issue, and this was a law firm that was hired by the city in order to do receiverships. If you remember, council member, it was months back, code enforcement had recommended a law firm that did receiverships. It appears as though, as Mr. Castillo mentioned, he was in escrow. One of the target properties, he was actually in escrow for to try to purchase it, to rehab it. And while he was in escrow, it seems as though the property went into the receivership, went to court, and the court assigned a receiver. I know the city manager has been in contact with the law firm that represented the city in that matter, and also with the receiver. You know, he's waiting for a phone call from the attorney as well to get more details of what exactly happened, given that somebody was willing to step up and actually had been in communication with that attorney to purchase the property.
And just so you're aware, I made contact prior to any notice being filed against the property. There was going to be direction that way, and I knew because of the city council meetings, but there wasn't nothing legally filed yet when I reached out. And then also what I would want you guys to look out, I don't know if there's a conflict of interest or not, the code enforcement officer that recommended this for the receivership, I'm under the understanding that either they have to report or they work for this third-party attorney that did the receivership. At least that's what I understand from the emails and conference calls that I had. So I don't know if that is fair for the community, because if the person citing the tags for receivership is employed by the person that does the receivership, what safeguards are we putting so they don't railroad or fast track it like they did here? And there, like I said, there was no need, because the reason this was brought to the council to do a receivership is because of the nuisance, and I immediately contacted code enforcement before they started the litigation and let her know that I was going to trash it, secure it, board it up, and the nuisance stopped. So in essence, there was no need for a receivership because I took it upon myself to rehab it, secure it, before we even closed escrow. And I still have it on a weekly maintenance where the guys are maintaining and secure on a weekly basis. They're still doing it now, even right now. So the nuisance stopped, so there was no need for a receivership.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Mr. Mears, do you wish to add anything at this point?
Sure. So what has happened, once I was contacted by Mr. Castillo about this particular situation, I reached out to the receiver and explained the situation, because I was trying to get a hold of the attorney, Mr. Curtis, who we hired as a municipality. And so I made contact with the receiver. I know that Mr. Castillo tried to contact the receiver. The receiver didn't return his phone call, and I guess he hasn't returned your phone call
Or emails.
Or emails as of yet.
Or the third-party attorney no more.
Okay.
So.
And so I reached out to him. He basically responded to me, and I told him what had happened and that I'm not sure why the receivership was granted at that time, especially because there was a willing party that wanted to, work with the property owner to address the issues there. And he basically said, well, I was appointed and there's really nothing that can be done. And basically just telling me that that's it. Yeah. Then at that point, I actually got a phone call, not even maybe half a minute later, from the Curtis, who represents the city, and say, hey, I just received a phone call from the receiver and this and this. I said, well, you're very aware that Mr. Castillo and his group wanted to acquire the property and work with the property owner to bring it up to code and all this stuff, and he's not happy, and is there anything that can be done? And as well, no, the receiver, it's already in their hands. We don't have any other mechanism. I said, well, Mr. Castillo more than likely is going to take this matter further, so maybe you can work with the receiver and see what can be done. So that was basically it at that point. Since then, I heard from you that you were going to file a motion. Yeah. And it's my understanding that you filed a motion on Friday.
Correct.
And I basically said that if the city needed to get involved and participate in the actual court action, that we would be there in support, because it's true that you submitted. I saw the emails and communications going back and forth between you and the code enforcement and the city, or Curtis Wright, who does the receivership process. Yeah. So that's kind of where we are today, and so the next step from here is to figure out if there's any other way for the municipality here to assist you, and then whatever motion that that you filed, where that goes.
Yeah, and the motion was to just present the same stuff I'm telling you guys to the court. Like I said, the receivership's usually, in my understanding, is it's as a last resort of a property, because I'm working with another property that was going to go into receivers with the city of Ceres. As soon as they found out I was involved, they put a hold and let us close, we rehab it, and they're happy. So I'm saying there was no need to fast track this property, because I got involved early on and put up time, money, and expenses because we wanted to make sure we secured and we took care of the nuisance. So the nuisance was taken care of. There was no need for a receivership.
And my last comment is just to say that this is, if you might recall, through all our council meetings, this receivership issue is very new to us, new to me, and this is the first time that we actually employ or work with a firm that does these kind of things, and so it's certainly, how can I say this, disappointing that that we got to this point, but whatever our council wants to do to make this right, we'll go in that direction.
Yeah.
And just a quick question in regards to the city reversing this or having any type of input is kind of out of our hands at this moment.
So not to go too far, because I know this item's not on the agenda for discussion, but I know that the city manager does have a call that I could also participate in with the attorney who did this, who did the receivership, in order to hopefully facilitate also a conversation with the attorney and the receiver, again, to make sure that this is kind of a unique situation where it's, like Mr. Castillo mentioned, that there was an interested buyer prior to the receivership happening. I know that he wants to make sure that the court knows that.
Yeah.
And I know that the city manager does have a call into the attorney, so that should be a conversation to be had.
And just to be clear, to me, it's not about the property. If we don't purchase it, that's fine. I just want to make sure that the seller nets the same amount that they were going to net with us. That's it. So for me, I mean, if we buy it, great. We're local. You're going to deal with me. We're going to have 5 more units that the community needs. We're not going to let it to get to that condition. I mean, that's what we do for a living. So I think it's like I said, I think originally it was structured as a win-win for everybody. But I mean, ideally, that's what we would want if possible.
Thank you. Anybody? Oh, okay.
Good evening, Council. Rodrigo Espinoza, Livingston. I'm just going to do a quick little education for the rest of the council. I know Paul has been here for a long time. About 30 years ago, when I started running my first campaigns in 2002 and 2006, when I used to knock on doors, I used to get told that about 30 years ago, some council members that were running and that were on the council, they condemned a lot of homes. And sometimes it seemed like for personal interest. I'm not going to say any names, the past is the past, but what I want is not for this council or this city and who's ever running the city not to be accused of anything. And I'm not accusing anybody. I'm not for Diego. He's a businessman. I have nothing to do business-wise with him. I just know him. It doesn't matter who buys the homes but what I'm trying to prevent is that make sure when I was mayor, we explicitly told the city manager that any contracts with any attorneys have to go through a city attorney because he's impartial. He's impartial, and that prevents anybody from being accused of giving contracts to somebody that's special or getting accused that he's going to get a kickback from somewhere, and that prevents the council members and the manager from getting accused of anything, and the citizens of accusing back and forth, right? So we just want to try to prevent any stuff like that from getting out there in the community. So we want to be upfront and open with the public. It doesn't matter which business buys what, and also too, when you condemn homes, when you go through foreclosure or whatever, what was it? Receivership. That's taking away somebody's home, and I don't think that the council should want that. That's part of code enforcement, but our impartial attorney, city attorney, if he doesn't have somebody that specializes in whatever comes forward in the city, he can delegate it to another firm. That's why he's hired for as a city attorney. But that prevents the council And I know that the council gave this contract out to this other firm, law firm, but, if something happens, illegalities happen, people are gonna accuse the council of anything, right? But if it goes through our city attorney and he's got no interest, he's just working for the city council. He's your employee and the city manager is your employee. And that way it prevents from you guys getting accused of anything. So I just want to make sure that that's out there, and that's probably the best. I know sometimes it's easy for the city managers to say, yeah, let's recommend this somebody, but I think that as a past council member, I would recommend to the council that everything go through the city attorney. Any contracts be written by the city attorney, not anyone else, or a specialized law firm. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you very much.
President Paul, honorable council members, my name is Paul Garcia, and I'm a resident from Delhi, but just hearing what's going on, I'm pretty sure that some of you received the ethics training, which spells it out, any conflict of interest, but remember, you are accountable to the registered voters out here, to this community, and also there needs to be some transparency also as well, and I hope that you guys look at that. Thank you.
Anybody else on public comment? If not,
Catherine Shaw Rodriguez, excuse me, P.O. Box 163, Livingston. A little bit earlier, it came up about not knowing why there were citizen comments on a special city council meeting. Well, I've been city council watching since 2007, and having citizen comments at a special meeting is really not that unusual. However, on page 3 of the agenda, it does note that citizens' comments usually have to do with any item that has been described in the meeting agenda. So you would have a couple of opportunities to comment on the items that are in a special city council meeting. One time would be during the citizens' comments portion. The other time would be when the item came up for discussion. So with that in mind, my question is, why are we having a special city council meeting? I noticed that item number 4 about the option for the real property, the option for the real purchase of real property, if I remember my agendas correctly, that was on the last regular city council meeting agenda, but got pushed forward. I know I've seen it on regular council meeting agendas before. And the establishing the Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Service Authority, I can't help but wonder why it has to be on a special meeting, why it can't wait till the first regular meeting in August. So if someone could explain to me the necessity of having a special city council meeting to cover these things on this particular day, I'd appreciate it.
thank you. Mr. Ramirez?
Yes. Thank you, Catherine, for your questions. As it relates to item number 4, I'll start with that one first. As part of what we're going to be presenting tonight, we have a deadline to submit a grant under the Prop 68, and this would facilitate us to meet that deadline and have the necessary paperwork and authority for submission, which is due on August 5th. There was some questions from our council in previous council meetings that needed to be answered to, and so that's why the items were pushed to this special council meeting. The establishment of the abandoned vehicle abate program is just on here because it's another item that we've been working on. This is an item that can certainly wait until the next meeting, but since we were having a meeting, we took advantage of just taking another item for council to look at in future meetings.
If I may add, Mayor, I know that, and City Manager, correct me if I'm wrong, but the meeting next week, there's a likelihood that it's going to be canceled.
Oh, that's
And
correct.
that's why there were other items placed on this agenda to add. We'll talk about it a little more on item 4, but item 4 is a little bit different than what you saw at the council meeting last time. This is an option to purchase versus the actual purchase and sale agreement that was on the agenda last time. There's a little more due diligence and questions that are going to be asked. Therefore, this provides us the ability to have site control by having an option to purchase instead of just purchasing the property. And we'll talk about that a little bit, but it's a little different than the item at the last meeting regarding the closed session, the special meeting public comment. You're absolutely correct. Pursuant to the Brown Act, at a special meeting, the council is only required to have a public comment portion on the agenda only for items that are on the agenda itself, not for other items like with regular council meetings. However, it is up to usually the chair or the mayor to decide whether they want to open it up, given that this meeting is most likely going to be replacing our first regular meeting. I believe that's why the mayor also opened it up.
Yeah, and also we have different, I'm not sure why everybody's here, but I figured maybe they want to comment on something aside that, so let's give them the opportunity, so, for time constraint purposes as well. Okay? All right, thank you. Any further citizen comments? If not, then the citizen comment portion is now closed, and we'll move on to the consent agenda. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial, be enacted by one vote unless a separate action is requested by the city manager or the city council member. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the city council or city manager requests that a specific item be removed. Item 1, this is approval of the warrant register dated July 25th, 2019. Number 2, approval of the minutes of the meeting held on July 16, 2019. Does anybody wish to discuss these items?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Make motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion by Councilman Aguilar. Do I have a second?
Yeah, second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Garcia. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5 out of 0. 5 to 0.
Five to unanimously. Okay, thank you. This is the item number 3. This is the City Council to authorize the establishing the Merced County Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Service Authority, and I see Mr. Chief Chavez already smiling and ready to go. Mr.
Yes,
Chief.
thank you, Mayor. It's that time again. The AVA program, Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Program, is established by the California Vehicle Code, and there's several vehicle code authorities that allow municipalities to ensure that their neighborhoods are clear of vehicles that look abandoned, that deteriorate the ambiance of a neighborhood, and basically supports the broken windows theory, where people feel empowered to keep their neighborhoods clean, call in crime, things like that. So in 2008, the County Merced took on the responsibility of ensuring that all the cities who wanted to participate in the AVA program were allowed to. They were required to present a resolution to the City Council for approval, and thus I'm bringing it to you because basically the 10-year grant period ends, the sunset ends next year. So they're taking the steps right now to ensure that we will approve the next one. So all the cities, I shouldn't say all, majority of the cities participate, all are invited to participate. And what it does is basically the vehicle code imposes a fee for each vehicle that's registered. It goes towards a program. So when we expend any of public funds to ensure that the vehicles that meet the criteria to be abandoned are towed and removed from the city, we do give ample opportunities for those residents and those registered owners to move those vehicles. And so the money that's collected, 40% goes to the governing board, which is MCAG here in our county. 40% goes by population. They basically take the money, divide it by population of those departments, agencies that want to participate. 10% is divided evenly amongst those agencies that want to participate. And again, this money that's generated is basically to support the police department in their endeavors to support the program. And so we're at that point now where we'd like to ask City Council to approve the AV program resolution for another 10 years. Again, it's going to be managed by MCAG. It's a great resource for us. We have officers and dispatchers that participate, and it's a great opportunity for us to go out there and answer the calls when we get complaints about vehicles parked, abandoned. And these are mostly for vehicles that parked on private property. Nobody can park a car on a private property. Looks like it's abandoned. Public property on the roadway is something different. And so those we can resolve with the current vehicle code violations. However, this is mostly addressing those vehicles parked on private property. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chief. This item is now open to the public. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. And Mrs. Ratzlaff, welcome, officially welcome.
Barbara Ratzlaff, 1458 Main Street. I need to ask the chief, does this include the cars that are on the lawn?
Yes.
Parked on the lawn?
Well, if it meets the criteria, that parking on the lawn is a separate municipal code violation.
Okay.
But if it meets the criteria of being abandoned, then yes, we do.
Okay. I know there is a city code that says that they're not to park on the lawn.
Yes, and what you can do is you can issue a citation. That's something a little different than empty.
Okay, because there's a lot of them around town.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a question to Chief, because I know you guys will be getting calls after all this, every year we get calls regarding cars being towed away from lawns or driveways, so it's just whatever the council wants to do. But one question is, if one car is parked on private property, how long do the registered owners or private property owners have before they tow it away?
So to answer Supervisor's question, when all we have an officer goes out and marks them, we're required by law to send a certified letter to the registered owner and the legal owner. If they're both the same person, then we send in one. On their letter it says they have 10 days. However, we give them 30 days to resolve any issues with them being parked illegally. And sometimes this actually goes up to 60 days. We actually give them a lot of extra time. So.
Yeah, I'm asking because like I said, I've gotten calls in the past, and I still get calls that that people have not gotten the letters of regarding the vehicles, and that the car's been towed right away when the cop goes over there. And also too, I've been I'm not going to say any current cause, but in the past that sometimes some people are interested in the vehicles, and that's why they get towed. But that's what they say, and I'm not going to go into that. But it just, like I said, every year it happens, and the cars that are registered are still towed, or only if they have expired tags, Chief?
As far as the ADA? Yeah, to answer your question, the vehicle code basically that's in place says any vehicle that meets our criteria, whether it's registered or not, If it is not registered, then usually they will have a P&O on the vehicle, meaning it's basically registered as a non-op. If we do impound it, and for them to get it out, they have to either get a P&O or have it registered before they can actually retrieve their vehicle and get a release from the police department. And just one other thing, and it kind of reminds me, we've changed our protocol a little bit when we do get complaints and we issue the warning and notice and we give them time. When the officer responds back out to check to see if the vehicle is in compliance, prior to impounding the vehicle, he will ensure that he takes pictures of the vehicle and if appropriate, give the owner notice. But a lot of times people will debate whether the vehicle meets the criteria for being abandoned, and that's why we document the condition of the vehicle at that time.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody else?
I really thank you for having that type of program. This way it'll eliminate some of the problems and make Livingston a great city to live. But my question is that when people have abandoned vehicles in their backyard, how are you going to know if those vehicles are registered or not?
That's a good question. If it's in the backyard and it's not visible to any public from the front, then we don't mark that vehicle, as long as it meets the criteria of not being in public view, being in front of the vehicle. We won't go into somebody's backyard and tow.
Also, vehicles, they're in the driveway, but they're facing, they're parked in reverse, so they won't see that the tags are expired.
Again, we're not concerned with the status of the registration tags. We're concerned about the condition of the vehicle. So whether the tags are up to date or not will come into play later on, but we are concerned of the fact that it does look like it's abandoned. It looks like it's not operative, and there's different ways we determine that.
And my third question is that, is the public going to be informed that they have this city ordinance or policy, so that if they have vehicles that are either abandoned, like people go out of the country or out of the state to work and they leave their vehicles here?
I think we have sent out letters in the past. If it's something that you think might be helpful, yeah, we can do that and remind our public, our community, that there is this protocol in place. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and for the record, that was Mr. Paul Garcia.
I got a question, Chief.
Yes.
Does that also apply to like jet skis and old boats, or just cars?
Yes. Well, again, if it's something that appears to meet the criteria of being abandoned, if it's something that doesn't look like it's running, I don't know that we've seen a jet ski, but the parking that type of vehicle in public view, that's a different section that we can enforce. So.
Thank you.
All right. This item is still open to the public. Can we get Mrs. Shell Rodriguez a... Yeah.
Couple of questions. First question is, once upon a time, a long, long time ago, right around 2008 or so, when this thing first started up, and then even as it went on, I remember something about being able to appeal to the city council that was included in these abatement letters. And I was wondering if that would still be in effect. My second question has to do with the $4,500 revenue number. Is that per quarter, or per annual. And my last comment regarding this is, no matter what the code is, if you can't find it quickly in the municipal code online, it doesn't help you a whole lot. The municipal code website that we have, I'm trying to think of a polite term for it, is very difficult to navigate. And it's not really all up to date and easy to find what you need. So that's something else that is going to need to be taken care of and addressed, because it's not good enough to tell somebody to, oh, it's in the code, go look it up, when it's a pain in the rear end to find it in the code.
All right, thank you for those
Thank
questions.
you. Before you begin, let the record reflect that Mayor Pro Tem has left the dais. He had an urgent call he had to attend to, 7:23. Sorry, go ahead, Chief.
That's okay. To answer your first question, yes. Anything that deals with those tows, they can always make an appointment. There are 2, soon-to-be 3 sergeants that can hear those type of hearings, but also Captain Story is always available to resolve any of those questions and on impounded vehicles. Secondly, what's your second question?
Second one had to do with the revenue number.
Oh, the revenue number. I think that's an averaged out quarterly for us.
So it's $4,500 per quarter?
I believe so. Yes. And then the last one was. Oh yeah, the finding, and the city manager can probably address this, because we're in the process right now of redoing our website, and this is a good opportunity to provide a link to our code. But as Paul had mentioned, it might get, next time we have a flyer go out in our water bill, we'd be happy to include that for all the residents and ensure that's in 3 different languages.
Okay.
It's a vehicle code.
The Livingston Municipal Code is on.
Yes. Okay. Anybody else from the audience?
I
If not,
do want to conclude by saying we will never, ever impound a fire vehicle, because those things are so shiny and they're always driven, and those things are really clean. So, but I don't know. Right now, they might be getting ready to play softball, so they might be a little busy. That's true. That's true.
oh, wow. Okay.
That's good.
That's because the corrupt county don't give us enough money to buy new ones.
That's right.
Okay. Anybody else from the audience? If not, the public portion is now closed. Council, any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion to authorize the reestablishment of the Merced County Abandoned Vehicle Abatement Service Authority.
I have a motion by Councilman Angler. Do I have a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Kang. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, item number 4, this is the resolution approving the option for the purchase of certain real property located on D Street between 5th and 6th Street. Mr. Ramirez?
Yes, Honorable Mayor, Council, and esteemed public, what we have before you is an option. And before I specifically talk about the option, let me just talk a little bit of the backstory related to this. Proposition 68, which is a grant for recreational purposes, has become available. And we started out looking at where we can be viably, that we can actually go after a grant that would be very competitive, that we would be able to grab. What?
Before you
Go ahead.
continue,
Yeah, I'll go ahead and clarify that. So anyways, so as part of this, this particular grant, yeah, I will. All right. So, first of all, before I continue to speak about this, one item that came to my attention. So this is specific to the Parks and Recreation, Prop 68. In my staff report, I put down under subject properties as follows, and I put in their proposed new fire department. The council hasn't addressed anything specific about whether or not we're going to have a fire department in one of those properties that we are looking at purchasing tonight. It's big, just big overall thinking, but nothing specific to that. Right now, we're only focused, and we have money, we've spent money, and we're moving in that direction. It's for the Prop 68 to actually take one of those buildings that's about 25,000 square feet and going after money to actually make improvements to that specific building so it can become a multi-purpose recreational facility. And so anyways, going back, we looked at.
And maybe given that, I would probably advise then, I know that one of our council members is a reserve firefighter. I know this basically has to do with the proposition recreation. Given even that the fire station was contemplated here, it'd probably be better if you recuse yourself today and let us look at it a little more carefully. I know we had looked at it, and there's no issue as far as you're a volunteer. So this is not about buying property for a fire station, but just given that comment on the staff report, if we could just potentially have you recuse yourself from this decision, and then we'll go ahead and look at it carefully prior to it coming back.
So we'll call you as soon as we're ready, okay?
So sorry for a little bit of confusion, but they wanted to determine whether there was a conflict or not, and so.
Yeah, I saw
So
the
to be
word
safe.
fire department.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure, so.
Okay, so that's why what happened, okay? All right, so we started looking at where we can be very competitive to go after this particular grant. So the best place was basically this census tract in this area. And it just happened to be that during that same time, we were approached by Livingston Farmers Association that they were looking at moving their operations out of town. Wow, so we started putting one and one together. And we said, well, this is a great opportunity, and so we started to explore this even further. And to be even more competitive, we're saying, well, the majority of the people look at doing outdoor recreation, not a combination of indoor and outdoor. So we then started looking at indoor, outdoor. I was like, well, how's the actual grant will work? They said, well, whatever you have indoor has to be the same amount of square feet outdoor. So all this actually worked out very well, and we started working with public health advocates, and public health advocates, they are basically paying for the grant writer, all of the engineering that needs to take place as far as the plans and also having all the meetings and all the meetings that we've actually had, because there has to be a lot of public input related to that. And so we started exploring that, started working with council, started to negotiate. We did an appraisal to see what would this be worth. And so the appraisal came back about 2.9 million. And then after we did that, we started to look at, we hired a couple of architects to just actually look and see if these, what the condition of these buildings are. Would they work out? Would this work out for what we're trying to do? And so it all checked out. Fast forwarding, we had all of our meetings, and the community provided a lot of input. And based on that input, a cost estimate was put together, the grant's being finalized, everything is moving forward. But unless we have site control of the buildings themselves, we really can't submit for the grant. So this gives us an opportunity to submit for the grant. The grant has to be submitted by August 5th, and then gives us a little bit more time to work out any other questions that either the public has or the council has to do the final purchase. The terms, 2.5, $500,000 down, 3.9% interest for the first year. It would be a 10-year payment plan. If we were to get a bona fide lower rate out there from any banking institution, we would be able to, they would actually match it. So let's say that we found somebody that would lend us money at 2.5% as an example. They would then honor that and match it for the remainder of the term. So this starting to look really, really good, and I think that we're doing this not because it's easy. We're doing this because it's hard and because it will have a huge impact for the community across the board. Okay, and I believe that we're going to be successful in getting. We're going to be submitting the grant for a little under. I believe it's just under $8 million. It'll be nice if we hit a home run and we get the full $8 million. Maybe half. That's just. So if we only get half, then we're going to phase it, because there's a couple more rounds of grant funding available. Okay, so we would go after money the following year. If worse comes to worst, let's say, of course, this is not contingent on the grant, but let's just say everything goes sideways on us. We don't get any money from the grant, and we start to have a little hardship on making the payments. Well, we're buying the property at 2.5. The appraisal came in at 2.9. So anywhere between 2.5 and 2.9, well, we can turn around and we'll probably make a little bit of money. The property is not going to be sitting vacant, because leasing the property, we'll make somewhere between $70,000 and $90,000 on sweet potato storage in there. The caveat for that is that if we do that, they have to stay in there for a year. So between like now until next June, it'll be occupied. But by the time we get money and start going out to bid and doing all these things, it'll probably take about that amount of time anyways. So that's kind of where everything is at. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that either the public or the council might have at this time.
Yeah, Mr. Sanchez?
And just to add a little more, I think just a description, and sorry I had to step back, but this is only, again, as the city manager pointed out, this is only an option agreement, and the option agreement would be to purchase the property. There is a blank in the exercise of option. I don't know if you've covered this already,
No.
Jose, but the option will be, and that'll be filled in. It will be for 6 months of today. And the reason why we're going with an option agreement is to demonstrate site control over the property in order to be able to apply for the grant. As far as if the council does approve any purchase agreement and loan agreement that would be part of the purchase agreement would come back to the city council for approval. Again, this is only an option for it. Regarding there is in the loan agreement, we wanted to add everything that way. At least the public had the preview of how the financing would work. The loan agreement does have I believe it's going to be a certain set term for the loan. So we would be working with the seller to see if, for example, the example that the city manager mentioned of selling the property, of whether that would be possible in order to pay off that debt, or whether we would have to, whether there would actually be a set term that we couldn't get out of for paying back the loan. Regarding the resolution, just one quick edit, Mayor, that I would like to just consider, and it's just 2 words. It's the now therefore be it resolved, and that's page 2 of the resolution. It'll read, the City Council approves the option agreement for the purchase of the property for $2,500,000, and it should read with the financing of $2 million of the purchase price. So it's replacing "and approves" with the word "with."
Okay. Mr. Ramirez, anything further to add?
Yes, one further detail here. a portion of that particular, one of the buildings, the specific building that we're looking at, making improvements for the Rexplex. If you note, part of that, there's a small section in there that will be slated for public works storage area. So because of that, we're incorporating a little bit of money from the different operation funds to pay for that storage space, but that would be used for public works.
Okay. Mr. Sanchez, anything else to add? Okay, this item is now open to the public. Does anybody from the audience wish to comment? As we all know, state your name and address for the record, and please limit to 3 minutes.
Rodrigo Espinosa again. You know, in the county, we just pushed for 2 Proposition 68 improvements applications, one for the Winton Park and one for Houlihan Park in Planada. So I encourage the city to move forward, council members. You know, you know, I think as a city, we're being subsidized in recreation programs, but also too, I think we have a safe community, keeping the kids out of issues. We have beautiful, you know, programs in the city, and the kids, you know, like just enjoy all the different sports all year round. So, you know, having a recreation center, I think will help the kids in basketball and whatever else. There's not enough facilities ever. So, you know, as the city grows, I think that this will become very popular. And I think from what the input from the community at the street fair, I think it was shown that they're very excited for hopefully this recreation to move forward, and hopefully this community can get the Prop 68 funding. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Espinoza. Anybody else?
David Blevins, 10194 4th Street. I know the city's been working very hard to get this grant. A lot of people were involved. I think this is a necessary step. We need this. We need these facilities. Our programs are growing. We really need this. So I urge you to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? We got a lot of firefighters here. Anybody? Go ahead, please.
Donna Duffy, 1616 Sapphire, Livingston. I've got questions and comment. First of all, I agree we need the facilities, and I agree with the way we're going about it. I have questions. There's more than one building there?
There's 2 buildings.
There's 2 buildings there, okay. So one of them is in the consideration of the proposal for the rec center, and one of them is to be determined or not part of this purchase?
To be determined. It's part of the purchase option.
Okay.
Right now, at this time, is an option.
So the entire property includes 2 buildings?
Yes.
But the grant only includes really the definition of one and the equivalent outdoor space, so it has indoor.
That is correct.
I saw the community response to needing these kind of facilities, and I think that is the answer for the city council. You have to do something. I'm concerned, though, that how it's going to get paid for. It's a 6-month option, so we're not going to know the answer of the grant based on what I heard in the meeting. We're not going to know that we got that grant money in 6 months. So somehow we have to work through all of that. How are we going to pay the money and or have it and or be able to turn it over if it doesn't come to fruition, or, I don't know, set up a bond or do whatever has to happen. So I am concerned there on how it's going to be paid for. I also looked into some of that. I saw money coming out of the water fund, and I get Public Works is going to use, X number of thousand, maybe 1,000 square feet of this, but it looked like these are the 10 possibilities, 10 silos that we can get money from, so we're going to go take 200,000 from each one of them. I mean, that's what it looked like to me. So I'm concerned, and I know that's going to be a future. That's not the discussion tonight. The discussion is for you to embark on the 6-month journey for this option. So I encourage you to support it, and I'll be around to see how it plays out.
And those were very good questions regarding the funds. I'm glad you asked, and we will try to address this at this time. Even though it's an option, we will address it. And never apologize or say for not asking the question. We're glad that you asked questions. So, Mr. Ramirez, did you wish to
Actually,
respond?
thank you very much. I very much enjoy your questions. This is the type of discussions that we need to have. So, Public Works, as we speak today, actually have outgrown the location that they're in. The city used to own the little warehouse that's behind them at this point. So, there was talk about, one day hopefully they sell it back to us so we can use it. That would be an ideal location because it's right next to, and we just, annex that in. That possibility I mean, they're doing very well, which is great for everybody. So because this opportunity came about, it's like and because of the condition of that other area, it's really can only be used for storage. And that's what we need for Public Works. So that space, it's defined, even though it's part of the building, it's defined, and it's not going to interfere with the other activities. And Public Works, some way or in fashion, is going to be incorporated in that. And so that's why we're taking some funds that are appropriate for that storage space. So so thank you for asking for that question. And then your other comment is in terms of how to pay for this. So, of course, we initially were at like 5% interest rate, 5 years. Since then, we've been negotiating, and so we've gone from 5 now to 3.9, but for not 5 years, 10 years. And what's really great is that LFA has said, you know what, if you find a better bona fide interest rate out there from a lending institution, and we're hoping that a CRA, an institution out there that really wants to get CRA points, which is Community Reinvestment Act funds, that we might get that really nice loan. So the cost is going to be lower. So let's just say that we're just round the numbers and say it's going to be somewhere around $200,000 a year. Okay. For now, we don't want, the last thing we want is that building to be vacant. There is a value associated with those buildings for sweet potatoes because there's not enough. As a matter of fact, there's folks who actually want to buy the building, okay? And if we were to get into a jam, okay, and again, it's not contingent on the grant. The grant is what got us thinking and going in this direction, but if all things don't pan out like we really want to, the good thing is that there is a market, and we believe that we will get back the 2.5 that we've agreed to, plus we'll make some money while it's being leased for sweet potatoes, because it'll take us, I'm sure, a year. By the time we get the grant, get the money, get the bids, get the contractor out there, keeping our fingers crossed. And if worse comes to worse, we put it on the market, and we'll get back what we invested in the property, is my take.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. Anybody else from the public?
David Bates, P.O. Box 302, Livingston. A lot of what I was going to ask has already been covered, primarily with regards to financing and contingencies in the event that the grant doesn't go through, the Prop 68 grant. I support the project. I was involved in one of the phases of the public comment portion of what was required for the grant. So I'm in favor of the rec project, and I think it could be a great benefit, assuming that all goes well and everything goes through. Like I said, my questions with regards to financing and contingency have already been answered. The only other thing that I had was kind of a technicality. I know that the APNs are listed in all the paperwork and everything that you're showing, but specific to the building that is being discussed for recreation, everything is saying that it's between 5th and 6th, when indeed it is between 6th and 7th, and the acre of property is actually east of 7th Street at C and 7th. So I don't know if that matters with regards to your resolution or any of that, but I know that everything has been very specific to D Street between 5th and 6th. So.
Very good question. No, thank you, you caught that. But yeah, so we're buying this as a package. So it's basically all 4 properties. The
So
1 acre lot.
between 5th and 7th
Yes,
and
5th,
beyond.
so
yeah.
we just basically put 5th and 7th. Yeah.
Okay, very good.
There's a firefighter for you, knows exactly where the city is, everything in the city. Huh? And the police, yeah, that's correct. Actually, the police department too. So anybody else? Seeing nobody coming forward, this item is now closed to the public. Council discussion? Any discussion? Just a couple of questions. Mr. Ramirez, for you.
Yes.
We have a 6-month option to purchase. Right now, no money is being exchanged, correct?
That's correct.
Just want it for the record, okay? Now, on the, when is the anticipated notice of award, if any, for our grant?
Well, it'll probably be, in knowing the state, because sometimes, you know, they're several months off. I don't anticipate, will we submit in August? More than likely, it'll be towards the end of the year, first part of.
So how many months is that?
So we got, let's see, so we got September, October, November, December, January, so February, that's 6 months. Starting from next month.
So just in time, when the option runs out, will we know what the award is before the?
No, no.
So if the council is going to base a decision on what the award amount is, how are we going to make that decision in 6 months?
No, you can't. So we're taking, we're taking a leap of faith here, okay, in buying this property, okay. Now, as it relates to the grant, my personal opinion, I know that we're going to get some money for the grant. We probably won't get the full amount, okay. So it looks, I think that we're going to have to take this on in phases, meaning that we're going to have to go after other rounds of grants and other grants out there to make this whole, okay? And then the council has other options as well, and the other options are, okay, do we keep all properties? Do we only keep, you know, the one in question? If we can't make the strokes, okay, we're gonna lease the properties, you know, we're not just gonna let the properties be there vacant. We're gonna figure out ways to lease the properties to get some money. Just the leasing for the sweet potato is somewhere between 70 and 90 is what the LFA folks are telling me right now, that they lease out, you know, what we can get back in terms of revenue. The other part is we are going to have to make the strokes. We're going to have to figure out ways to pay for the mortgage payment in this particular case.
Okay, and go ahead.
Just regarding the agreement, what it does do is it provides 6 months in order to look into the financing, bring back more information to the city council regarding the purchase and other potential grants out there. I think what it does is it provides a little more kind of a due diligence period before signing and entering into a purchase and sale agreement, but it shows the site control, but it does, as you know, as you heard, the city manager is continuing to work on answering the questions regarding the financing, making sure that the pencils are sharpened, and he's looking at other funding opportunities as well. At least that's our conversation we had, and the thought of at least having some time, like 6 months, is real time to look at all those things.
Okay, and then the question I got is, yesterday, some 16-year-old kid won $3 million playing Fortnite. So if every parent decides, you know what, we're gonna just go ahead and have them play games and they're not gonna come out, and the council says, well, there's no reason for it or whatever, in 5.5 months we decide we're not gonna do it, is there a penalty for this?
Penalty from,
Saying we're not gonna exercise the option?
no.
So anytime before the date of actually signing, we can back out at any time, correct? And there's no financial cost whatsoever?
None.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Hopefully Fortnite doesn't increase the prize money, so maybe we'll have more kids. So let's hope that happens, so.
This option is directly with LFA. There's nobody in between.
No, there's nobody in between, but I like to put it like a hypothetical, so. Yeah. Aliens come down and they bring, whatever, but, just wanted to make sure that we get this on the record for everybody, that there is no cancellation cost, and so far. Okay, council, any further discussion? If not, does anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
As amended by the attorney?
And it will also amend the reference to 6th Street it would make it to 7th Street.
Yes.
And then the word, the changing the word and approved to the word with on section 2 of the now before group result. Yes. So in its revised form, the resolution under the first recital, the whereas, it is replacing where it says the site located on B Street between 5th and 6th Street. It will now read the site located on B Street between 5th and 7th Street, given that it captures those two, from what I understand, the two streets. The number 2 and the now therefore be it resolved on the second page, it'll change it from the city council approves the option agreement for purchase of the property for $2,500,000 and approves the financing of $2 million of the purchase price with the financing of $2 million of the purchase price. Those are the two edits to the bill.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay, Councilwoman, would you wish to amend your motion as stated by the attorney?
Yes.
Okay, motion is amended as stated by the attorney. Do I have a second? I will second that motion. May I have roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 3-0.
Yes, could you please advise Mr. Aguilar to come back in now? I'm going to announce it, but I want him to come on, so. Huh? Boy, we heard that snores out there over here.
Shouldn't that vote have been 3-1 and 1, 3-1 absent, 1 abstention, to be clear?
So for the record, it will be it would pass on a vote of 3-0 with 1 absent and 1
That should be stated,
one being recused.
Records will reflect that. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, council, any further business? I believe that we are not having the meeting on August 5th. Is that correct? There will be no meeting on August 6th, rather. So everybody please come out for the National Night Out. So that actually works out better for everybody. And Mr. Aguilar, just so you know that motion had passed. You watched it online? Okay. You shouldn't have done that. Ooh.
Don't tell us about it.
But we don't want to know about it because you're still subject to that rule. So anyway, as I stated earlier, that we wanted to come out, so we don't want the public to be waiting a long time. We will adjourn into our closed session. You're free to stay here if you wish and wait for the exciting report out, if any, or have fun, whatever you want to do. Thank you.